All right, testing 1, 2, 3. Right, ecosystems part 5. Let's go and start. Okay, it's being recorded. All right, guys, listen up here. For guys, listen up. Now, for today, if you have the set of notes I've given you, could I ask you to take it up and open to part 5 on the carbon and nitrogen cycles, because I want you guys to open up to the diagram page. Forget the notes for the time being. That is for your reading. I just want you to open up and have a look, all right, at the diagram in the cycle, because that's where you will get used to in what is going on. Okay? So while you're doing so, just a recap. We have done parts 1, parts 2, parts 3, and 4 so far. All right. So starting from the basic, we have photosynthesis, we have respiration, and now we are just trying to integrate all these basic ideas. Shh, guys, listen up. We are trying to integrate everything into the carbon and nitrogen cycle, because, guys, could I just ask you what is the definition of a cycle here? Can anyone just give me a simple explanation? A cycle. Can someone tell me what a cycle is? Correct. Is a what? Sorry, Alex? It's a repeating process. Correct. What were you saying just now? Okay, good. So you know. Good. Everyone knows that. Shh. So you know it's a repeated process. Hush, people. It's a repeated process. But the two main cycles that we are going to look to today is actually the carbon cycle and the nitrogen cycle. You may have the water cycle and you also have the phosphorus cycle. But at this stage, you're only touching on these two. And carbon and nitrogen here are two very essential components in the human body or even in animals and plants. What does this carbon here play an important role in a human body? Can anyone just name me one particular component? Carbon dioxide, that's right. You remove the carbon dioxide from your system. What else within the body itself? Why do we need carbon? Why is it important? Anyone here? Why is carbon important? Think about it. Sorry? Mm-hmm. Element, that's okay. All right. Without it, we won't be able to function. So the main role, guys, the main role in the carbon cycle, it is the basic component for hydrocarbons. Without the carbon, you won't be getting glucose. All right. This is the basic element that unites all the other elements together, hydrogen, oxygen, because carbon is more of a framework. All right. As you have, for those who are doing chemistry, those of you in chemistry, this is what you need to know. Carbon is the basic essential skeleton. Whatever that is formed, there's always carbon. What about nitrogen here? Where can we find nitrogen? Sorry, where else can we find nitrogen in the body? Sorry? Yes, it's inside the air we breathe, but in our body, where can you find nitrogen? What sort of component has nitrogen? Sorry? Come on, guys. What have you done last year? What have you done last term? Guys? DNA. Correct. DNA is actually found with nitrogen containing inside. Okay? So that's how you relate it. There's a relation. Now, on your diagram there, this is a summary, all right, of a carbon cycle. I have labeled C1, C2, C3, C4, and C5 because that corresponds to your 5 important processes, okay? What we need to know here is this. We have talked about photosynthesis and respiration, two basic processes. You know what it is. But when we relate it with a cycle here, we must know that photosynthesis and respiration will go hand in hand. All right, there is a basic common thing between these two because it needs to balance the whole cycle. Yes, the others like burning of fossil fuels or even fossilization and decaying and feeding and assimilation, these are important too. But the two most important processes here actually balance out the carbon. So as one of your colleagues have mentioned, it's a repeated, right? It's a repeated cycle. So you need this to be repeated and recycled because you want this element to be replenished in nature. This cannot go down, all right? It has to be consistently replenished. It has to be consistently used as well, okay? So let's move on with this. All right, you have seen this. I won't talk about the important process or what the equation is. What I want you to do is this. Whenever you see a word carbon here, you have to think of the process. All right, carbon is created. How do you do that? You extract carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. All right, in fact, that is the function for the photosynthesis, the leaf section here. And what happens? Glucose is stored as starch. That's your first important point as well. And also glycogen in animals. But you won't see these two terms of starch and glycogen until you come into semester 2. But for the timing here, you can say it is, a type of food source for the plants. It is also a food source for animals as well. Okay. The last one here is that because we know from part 4, your producers are the starters, the start of all food chain. And you know that the carbon is transferred from plants to animals via feeding and also assimilation. So literally here, guys, whatever processes that we talk about here, everything is interrelated. Everything is interconnected. It's just that you need to see which one goes with which. Okay, the notes I provided you, including with the worksheets, all right, most of the answers are found there, but there are some which require you to think properly. All right, especially extended. So I want you guys to try those worksheets and we will discuss it later on this week. And for next week, I will not have the test on Tuesday because I find it a bit too rushed. We'll probably have it on Thursday. All right, so it gives you about maybe 5 lessons to revise. And I hope that you start revising from now on. All right, I don't have to speak about respiration. We know about that. Okay, the only thing that we have to remember is carbon dioxide is a byproduct you release into the environment. There's a balance. All right. So whatever that goes in the environment goes up, it is replenished at the same time. Okay. Now, feeding and assimilation, you have seen that in the food chain. What does that actually mean by feeding and assimilation? What it means by that, when you consume something, whether it's a carbon or a nitrogen element, it will definitely go in the form of food. It will be definitely inserted into your body. Everything is channeled through inside. What you consume, what you assimilate, what you absorb. That's what feeding assimilation here is. All right? Any questions on this so far? You're finding it easy to understand what the concept is like. If you're not finding it easy, that's okay. That's very normal. You only need to, get yourself started, open a book, think, and relate. Because everything here is all related. Okay? Fossilization and also decaying. Now, you have heard about the word decomposers. All right? What does a function of the decomposer play in an ecosystem? Sorry? Luke, you wanted to answer? No. David? Sorry? Your what is enough? I'm just asking you if you have any questions anyway. Anyone else? Anyone else want to try? Does anyone know what's a decomposer? Come on. Come on. Thank you very much. That's all. I just wanted that answer. All right. So the role of a decomposer, you have seen in the food chain. It plays an important role is because it will break down whatever molecules that you have, like this fish, for example. Once it is dead, it will be buried under the ocean. And somehow, because it doesn't have a chance to decay properly, there will be fossilization. All right. And that is when you will see fossils of dinosaurs. All right. Those are not able to decay. Or even on the right hand side here, plants. All right. Plants will also decay and decomposers. What are the examples of decomposers? Anyone? Sorry? Yep. Yep. That is also one. Sorry, which one? Oh, yes, unfortunately, but that's all right. You can just check the PowerPoint I upload later on. Okay? Shh. Pavlo, shh, 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 shh. So whatever it is, the decomposers will decompose. You will break down all the dead leaves and also dead animals, all right? And it will return the carbon into the soil. Guys, you guys paying attention there? Chill. All right, so this is the whole process here. Any questions so far? No questions. Another one, combustion, burning of fossil fuels, even exhaust from cars releasing carbon dioxide. This is one way that it can be returned, but there is a side effect. Factories and also cars which utilizes fossil fuels will actually produce a massive amount of carbon dioxide and it will return it to the atmosphere. And this is very unnatural because whatever that has been done by man, it is not natural at all, or not occurring at all. So this one here, if the amount of carbon dioxide is returned to the atmosphere and it increases, right? We don't have that many plants. And these plants play an important role to actually regulate the level of carbon dioxide and oxygen in the environment. So the trees here in general, because of the 21st century that we have deforestation that plays, a very big role in the whole thing, you will notice that the trees are not able to sustain it. And that is why you have, as a result, enhanced greenhouse effects. All right, global warming, with all these things coming into place, and it's because of that. Okay. Now, the nitrogen cycle. Before that, we talked about the carbon cycle. All right, and respiration and photosynthesis play two important roles in maintaining that balance. Nitrogen cycle here doesn't have to do directly with the plants, it is only indirectly. And why is that so? Because in terms of that nitrogen, you need nitrogen to build DNA, all right, in plants or even animals for that matter. So this section here will tell you about the processes. In the notes that I've given to you, I have given to you two diagrams, and these two diagrams refer to the processes and one bacteria as well. So guys, in an extended response, I might ask you, describe some of the processes that involve, recycling nitrogen or even carbon. I can come up with many extended questions to relate, what you have learned so far from a food chain to a cycle. So you need to have a strong basic understanding of the nitrogen cycle, carbon cycle, and whatever topics we have done before. All right. And you will see that later on in your worksheets. Right. So we will have a few processes here, but I want to take you to the four most important ones first. Lightning. All right. Lightning is one way where you can actually generate nitrogen gas. And why is that so? If you are going to learn this in chemistry later on, so this is a big heads up. The lightning provides more energy and enough energy for the oxygen and nitrogen to combine in the air, because you know that nitrogen is very stable. And most of you will know that in general, the nitrogen gas consists of 79%. So you can't actually take in direct nitrogen because it is just too stable. You need to break it down. And to break it down, you need loads of energy here. All right. And if you have rainfalls, for example, it will come in a form of nitrate ions as well, because from the nitrogen, you're going to break down it into many components: ammonium, and nitrate, for example. And this nitrate here is actually very soluble in water. All right. So that is why when plants take up the water, they are also taking up the nitrate ions as well, because nitrate is very soluble in water. All right. So there is a give and a take. You have to see what is going on here in this case. Next one, the very common basic: feeding, excretion, and also assimilation. The same thing, just like what we did with the carbon cycle. You have the producers producing the nitrogen inside, being transferred to the, what is this called? Is this a mousse? Okay, it's a mousse. Sorry, my eyesight is getting bad. This is a mousse here, all right? So whatever they take inside and whatever they eat, the nitrogen has been transferred. So guys, remember, it's not only just energy being transferred, it's the elements being recycled. It is the elements being transferred to the organism as well, okay? Once you have digested it, you assimilate it. Assimilation here means the absorbance of the nutrient into your body to have a particular function, all right? To do whatever is necessary for the body physiologically. And once it is done so, you don't need any more, it comes out from the back. You know what I mean. All right. And it is in a form of urea. And of course, if you have ever smelled urea before, that actually contains ammonia. So NH3, it's releasing into the gas, releasing into the environment. But I can tell you, ammonia, not a very nice thing. Even urea, not a very nice thing to smell. Right? And see, the whole idea here is decomposition, whatever that has to do with a living organism, all the processes are the same. So literally, once you know the carbon cycle has these processes, the nitrogen will also have the same thing as well, but there are some differences. I might ask you, you know, describe two differences you can find in a nitrogen cycle and a carbon cycle. Who knows? I can come up with that. It's just that I want to see how you place your thoughts. It's just like what you did in your essays. The essays were great. I love reading them. But somehow the connections in between doesn't really make sense to me. So that's something that you can improve on when we do our experiment tomorrow. All right, when you have to do another report, but I will guide you through that report. There's a process where I give a scaffolding process. Okay, so again, you have this, the decomposers produce ammonia from nitrogen in decaying animals or plants. Simple, straightforward explanation about this, right? Decomposition. Rotting fruits or even rotting animals, they will still give up. In fact, this guy here will also give up carbon as well. So you can mention two in one. You know, there is so much possibility, and that is why we call it extended, because you don't expect it to be in just the basic form. And we have mentioned about nitrate ions being very soluble. The next topic we're going to talk about, maybe on Thursday for the first half, is we're going to talk about eutrophication. All right? Because nitrate is so soluble. So think about it. If we produce chemical fertilizers and give it to the plants will absorb. And when the plants will absorb, somehow the water is able to carry it down to the lake. And if there is an excess amount of nutrients, for example, here, the nitrate ions and also phosphate ions, it will actually encourage the growth of algae. That's why we say algae blooming. All right. So what happens here, if the algae bloom on the top of the surface, what will happen to the level of oxygen? What do you reckon? Will it increase or decrease? The level of oxygen would definitely decrease. All right, it will not increase, because what happens here is oxygen, which is in the atmosphere, will try to dissolve in the water. But due to the fact that it's been covered by this layer of algae being blooming on the top, you know, it's not able to dissolve properly. And as a result, it forms a layer, and the organisms down there, the fish or any aquatic organisms, will not be able to get the dissolved oxygen to undergo what process, guys? Respiration. So that's the thing, where everything comes into play. You might see that this is very straightforward, but sometimes if you think in a different dimension, a different way of thinking, it is actually very severe. So one thing in biology, you need to make the connection. All right. You can also leach into the soil. That is one word we can use, or underground water table. Leads to excess of nitrates in lakes and rivers. Eutrophication is the process. And we need a biotechnology component to actually control eutrophication. So the next part, we will talk about how we can actually solve the problem of eutrophication using biotechnology. Now, those are the processes how nitrogen is being recycled and how it is being utilized. Now, in this case here, that is done by a chemical and physical way. Now we want to concentrate on the bacteria. All right, there are three types of bacteria that you have to know: B1, B2, and B3 that I've labeled here. All right, the first one, the nitrogen fixing bacteria in root nodules of legumes. All right, or you can even say nitrogen fixing soil bacteria, but we concentrate more on the plants. Rhizobium bacteria is one, all right, one group of organisms. I don't expect you to know this one here, but if in case you want to remember, by all means you remember, but you can just say it is the nitrogen fixing bacteria. Think about it. You take the nitrogen, you fix it. All right, so that's how you can interplay with some of the words. It forms a mutual symbiotic relationship. Aha, where have we seen mutualism here? In the previous one. Very good. What is this mutualism? Can anyone define me mutualism? Yes, David? Yeah. But anyway, you have the idea. Both parties will benefit. So the plants will benefit because there will be some, form of nitrogen being delivered to them. And, the bacteria there will be, they won't do any harm. They're just going to stay there and they're going to live and try to help to convert the nitrogen in the atmosphere into a specific ion. Okay, so here, conversion of nitrogen gas to ammonium ions or ammonia. All right, and as a result, you increase the nitrate ion availability. How is it going to be taken up by the plants? Can anyone tell me? How is this nitrate ions in water going to be taken out by plants? Correct. Thank you, David. Through the roots. So you can do that. There's an elaboration. Okay. Another type of bacteria which increases the availability of nitrogen is the nitrifying bacteria. All right. So you can say nitrifying bacteria converts or oxidizes ammonia to nitrate ions, and as a result, it is available for plants to assimilate. So basically, the idea here is they're also converting, they're also oxidizing ammonia to all the ions which is soluble as well. Okay, very straightforward, and that is when I would say a picture tells 1,000 words. All right, so refer to your diagram and have a look and see what you can infer from there onwards. Now, besides taking up nitrogen, we would also want to give it back to the environment, and this is where this little component comes in, a denitrifying bacteria, B3. And of course, if nitrifying and nitrogen fixing bacteria, takes in the nitrogen to the plants, what is this role of the denitrifying bacteria? Can anyone tell me? Yes. Anyone? Denitrifying. What do you do with denitrifying? You you throw out. Good. You throw it back to the environment. You throw it out into the atmosphere. Right? If you take it in, you have to give it out. So this is the form of a denitrifying bacteria. And what do? They act on decaying animals or even plants, and they convert this nitrogen because they do not want this nitrogen to be lost to the environment. They want it to be recycled, replenished. So therefore, this nitrates here, it will be converted by the denitrifying bacteria, and off it goes straight into the environment. Okay, and of course, if the two bacteria groups before increases nitrogen availability, this one here is the opposite. Okay, so there are a lot of things that have to come into play when you come to talk about ecosystems. It's all about interrelation. I can talk about, right, within the community, what happens in the community. There is interspecies competition. All right, there's interspecies competition. There is, the growth curve model that, predators and prey. There's so many items and components that you have to think, all right, about this. It's not an easy topic, but I'm sure most of you can do it. All right, the only thing that you guys lack is practice. Is what I've noticed so far. Because when I did it with you last week, most of you, I think, were not confident enough to actually write your thoughts and translate them into words. Okay, so we need to have that balance of practice. All right. Our next topic here is on biotechnology and how we can solve the world problems by using biotechnology solutions. This professor here is actually from the University of Nottingham. What happened here is that he managed to fix nitrogen fixing bacteria into normal plants by using biotechnology, and it's able to take up and process the nitrogen into nitrate ions, and it'll be taken up into the plant itself. It's a beautiful technology, just only discovered and just only made its headlines 2 years ago. All right, 2 years ago. This is brilliant. We will talk about it, and hopefully at that time I won't be talking because there will be a YouTube video. Okay, any questions so far from you guys this time? Any questions? None? So again, my suggestion, go back, do your worksheets. I promise to upload the answers. I will really promise on that. Yes? Good boy. Okay.